Theodore. He's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Bodak, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
It all started one day when our friends Theodore and Fodak were at the great ocean dock, and Bluenose sailed past. "Isn't she beautiful?" said Theodore.
Oh yeah, she certainly is a beautiful ship. But unfortunately, Fodak sees otherwise. You see, Fodak doesn't think an old ship like Bluenose is any good, and he's only impressed by the newer things. Fodak, I hate to break this to you, but old things do have their uses as well as the new things, which you may find out sooner than you expect. Anyway, as Theodore passes by Bluenose's dock, the ship greets him, and then the two begin to talk about all kinds of different things.
Turned out that Bluenose was lonely. "I always thought someone beautiful like you would have lots of friends," said Theodore. "No," replied Bluenose. "Other ships don't seem to want to talk to me. Maybe it's because I'm different. Or maybe because I'm old. Years ago, before the motor ships came along, there were many, many sailing ships here in the Big Harbor. But now I'm the only one left," she said sadly.
Aw, that's kind of sad, honestly. Seems like other ships also don't have an appreciation for the old things now, do they? Anyway, after the two are acquainted, Bluenose and Theodore head out into the harbor, and Bluenose begins to tell Theodore about the wonders of having sails.
Theodore liked to ask her what it was like to sail. He could hardly imagine being able to move without the deep drumming sound of his engine. "Oh, I'd rather use my sails," said Bluenose with a smile on her voice. "You just lean over with the wind and it pushes you along." "As long as you've got sails," she said, "you can always get somewhere. The wind will blow sooner or later." Then Theodore decided he would see if he was faster than Bluenose. "1, 2, 3, make way for me," shouted Theodore, and he scooted by Bluenose. Just then the wind puffed up just a little bit, and Bluenose suddenly pulled away from Theodore so fast it made him look like he was standing still. The sailing ship went gliding down the harbor and then turned into the wind with all her sails shaking and sailed back up to Theodore. "Wow!" exclaimed Theodore. "Are you ever fast?" Bluenose smiled. "Don't forget, once I was the fastest ship on the ocean."
She is pretty fast. Can't take that away from her, to say the least. So a few days later, Bluenose is sent for repairs where she is given a new radio. And as Theodore arrives to help her down, he notices how upset Bluenose is.
"What's the matter?" he asked. "They gave me a new radio," said Bluenose. "It's supposed to let me send or hear messages from anywhere. So now you're like a brand new modern ship," said Theodore, trying to make Bluenose feel better. But Bluenose wasn't happy. "We old ships don't need these new things. I was sailing on the high seas before these kinds of radios were even thought of," she said. Then Theodore noticed a big red shape underneath Bluenose's black hull. "Hey, there's more of you under the water than on top of it," he said. Is that something new too?" Bluenose laughed. "No," she replied. "That's as old as I am. The red shape is the secret of sailing." "Help me back into the water, Theodore," said Bluenose, "and I'll show you how it works."
Bluenose, look. Just as I pointed out to Fodak, you two will learn that even new things have their uses. So once Theodore helps Bluenose back into the water, it's lesson time!
Pretend you're the wind, Theodore, said Bluenose softly, and I'll show you the secret of sailing. Push my side like you were a powerful wind from the open sea. So Theodore carefully put his front bumpers right against Bluenose's side and pushed really hard. But instead of moving sideways, Bluenose slid straight ahead. Well, Theodore was very surprised. It's the same with the wind, said Bluenose. Even if the wind blows against my side, that red shape that's under the water makes me move straight ahead. I wish I could sail like that, said Theodore. It looks like so much fun. Oh, when the wind is your friend, you probably could a little, answered Bluenose. And then she scooted ahead with the warm summer breeze.
Learning all these amazing things about sailing ships is kind of interesting. No wonder Theodore is so fascinated by Bluenose. With that said, just as Bluenose heads off, Phoduck comes rushing up to Theodore over his recent discovery.
See what I found with my new depth sounder? He said. Theodore noticed the big green and yellow striped cloth on Phoduck's deck. It was under the water over in COPPA Cove. Isn't it great? Theodore nodded. Phoduck's new machine could certainly find wonderful things. Come on, Theodore, said Phoduck. I'm going to see what else I can find with this new machine. Come with me. Thank you, Phoduck, said Theodore, staring back at Bluenose. He could still see her sails dancing with the wind. I think I'll stay here for a while, he said quietly.
A cloth? That is not that impressive to me. Sorry. Anyway, the following day, it's now Bluenose's turn for a lesson as Theodore tries to help her practice using her new radio.
My new radio makes too much noise, she said to Theodore. Sailing ships are supposed to be as silent as a sea breeze, continued Bluenose. But with this new radio, I sound like a big storm. You don't have to turn your radio up all the way, said Theodore. Only if you're far away from who you want to talk to. Come on, I'll help you practice. You go over there, he said, and I'll go this way. Can you hear me? Theodore said over his radio. Hello, Theodore, Bluenose radioed back. I hear you. You don't need to shout to be heard, said Theodore. That's what the radio is for. Theodore went farther away and used his radio again. Can you hear me now? Loud and clear, Bluenose said into her radio. That's it, Bluenose, said Theodore. Now I'll go really far away until we can't see each other. We'll still be able to talk. Theodore disappeared behind Willie's Island. Calling Bluenose on the radio. I hear you, Theodore, Bluenose answered back.
Was I the only one who laughed and cringed at the same time when the scene started? Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, Phoduck is off by himself testing his depth sonar when his propeller gets suddenly tangled in seaweed. Theodore sees that his friend is in trouble and comes up with a very clever idea. But obviously, this isn't going to go as smoothly as we all think. You'll see what I mean.
Maybe you could sail out, he called. Phoduck looked puzzled. Sail, he said. Theodore, you know I can't sail. You can use that old green and yellow striped cloth you found, said Theodore. Phoduck raised that old cloth right up his radar mast, just like a sail. And do you know what? The wind began to push. I'm moving, shouted Phoduck. It's working! Phoduck, watch where you're going, called Theodore. The wind was blowing Phoduck all right, straight toward the rocky shore. Without his propeller, Phoduck couldn't stop or turn. Was there one ship in the harbor who was fast enough to help stop the runaway tugboat? There was one, thought Theodore. Bluenose. Bluenose heard a call over her radio. It was Theodore, and he was calling for help. Bluenose sailed in a graceful arc and came right alongside Phoduck. turn your sail the other way, she called. Phodak turned his sail the other way, just like Bluenose had suggested. And soon, the wind did the rest. Now it was pushing him away from the shore. And just in time. Hooray! Shouted Theodore. Hooray! Shouted Bluenose. Hooray! Shouted Phodak. Thank you for saving me, Phodak said to Bluenose. But how did you know I was in trouble? I heard Theodore call for help over my new radio, replied Bluenose. You know, I guess new things are good for something after all. You know, said Phodak as the wind pushed him along beside Bluenose, old things are kinda good too. Can you show me more about sailing the old way? Sure, replied Bluenose. Can you show me more about using my new radio? Phodak gave Bluenose a hearty toot-toot with his horn. Sure he would. And Bluenose rang her bell to Phodak. Theodore gave his own happy toot-toot as he watched his two friends sail on past. He knew they would both have many, many things to show each other, old and new.
And that concludes Theodore and the Bluenose. What can I say about this episode other than I think it's just meh? I don't know what it is, but every time I watch this, I always seem to be engaged in the first half, but then find myself getting drowsy towards the second half. I can't take away the fact that the moral does speak out. That new things have their uses as well as the old things. Again, as Phodak and Bluenose both had to find out in their own way. As for our characters, viewers are now properly introduced to Bluenose, who once again is a very beautiful looking ship regardless of her age. And I think we've all been in Theodore's place where most of us can appreciate the new as well as the old. And as for Phodak, well, he kinda had to learn the hard way now, didn't he? And as for music, Bluenose's theme can be heard, which I have to say, it's a very beautiful piece indeed. So calming and smooth, just like the old girl herself. Way to go, Graham! Now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying this is a bad episode. It did have all of its good points, but for me personally, it's just one of those that I don't really consider a go-to episode if you catch my drift. Nothing really too bad, I suppose. Up next is anybody listening?